Hello everyone, tonight we are going on a little historical adventure that will curl your toes and probably make you double-check your windows before you fall asleep. We're plunging deep into the unforgiving frost-bitten wastes of ancient Hyperborea, a land where winter isn't just a season, it's a lifestyle, and survival is less a guarantee and more of a really optimistic wish. You're probably going to shiver just thinking about it, and let's be real, you probably won't survive this if you were actually there. But hey, it's just a story for tonight, right? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. Also, drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is, so I can imagine you tucked cozily in your specific little corner of the world. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get going tonight. Imagine yourself trudging, bone-weary, through a desolate, frozen expanse known only as Ganata. The air bites with an ancient, unforgiving chill, carving its way right through your thickest furs, settling deep in your marrow. Swirling mists, thick as frozen breath, cling to the desolate, jagged rocks, making the landscape blur into a nightmare of muted grays and stark whites. Every breath you take is a frosty plume, stinging your lungs as if you're inhaling shards of ice. This isn't a scenic winter wonderland you might see on a postcard. This is the kind of cold that promises an unpleasant, hypothermia-induced snooze. Conan the Barbarian, however, isn't here for the postcard views. He's here because whispers, the wrong kind of whispers, full of shadow and fear, have reached even the farthest corners of the world, pulling him like an inexorable cold magnet towards a malevolence he instinctively knows needs to be punched, or at least dramatically cleaved, out of existence. You see him, a powerful dark silhouette against the perpetually dim light, his shoulders hunched not from weakness, but from the relentless press of the oppressive atmosphere. He moves with that familiar, almost lazy grace that belies coiled strength, his keen Cimmerian eyes scanning the seemingly empty desolation. Every crackle of frost beneath your boots, every sudden gust of wind seems to carry a secret. The silence here isn't peaceful. It's a profound, heavy thing, broken only by the distant mournful cry of some unseen scavenger, or perhaps just the wind itself playing tricks on your tired mind. You try to remember a time you felt this kind of cold, but the modern world simply doesn't prepare you for a climate where even your teeth ache. Conan probably wishes he had a heated vest and a decent latte, but alas, it's 10,000 BC, and seasonal affective disorder just translates to frozen solid. There's an invisible thread here, a tangible wrongness that you feel pulling you along. It's colder than the actual air temperature suggests, a psychic chill that bypasses your furs and goes straight to your very core. You shiver, and it's not just from the wind, it's from the distinct feeling that something else is shivering with you, or perhaps at you. Every rock formation, every gnarled, frozen tree seems to shift in your periphery, momentarily forming monstrous shapes before resolving back into lifeless stone and wood. It's a trick of the eye, of course. Or is it? The ancient Celts, for example, living in their own misty, desolate lands, firmly believed that spirits and hidden folk dwelled within stones and trees, attributing strange feelings in isolated places to supernatural presences rather than mere physiological responses to cold and solitude. They knew this feeling well. Conan presses on, following faint, half-obscured tracks in the thin crust of snow. They're not human tracks, not entirely. There's an unsettling length to the stride, a slight disfigurement in the impression that sends a tiny, insistent alarm bell clanging in the back of your mind. You lean in, squinting, trying to make sense of the anomaly, but the swirling mist drifts in, momentarily obscuring everything. This region, Ganata, is a forgotten corner of the Hyborian Age, a place of crumbling ruins older than the stars, populated by ancient legends and very few living souls. Legends spoke of horrors awakened here, of things best left buried beneath the ice, but Conan, true to form, views legends less as warnings and more as particularly challenging scavenger hunts. His bedtime story tonight is probably more about avoiding frostbite and battling existential dread. Very relaxing. Historians still debate whether specific geographic regions, especially those as far north or exceptionally desolate as Ganata, fostered unique spiritual beliefs, or if the sheer isolation and hostile environment merely intensified existing superstitions among early peoples. Were the spectral feelings in such places a byproduct of hypothermia and oxygen deprivation, or truly something more? All you know right now is that the feeling of being watched is palpable. You glance over your shoulder, your breath hitching. Nothing. Just more mist, more unforgiving rock. But you feel it. It's like when you know you left the oven on, even though you just checked it an hour ago. An insistent, nagging certainty that something is amiss, a primordial whisper of dread in your ear. This relentless trek feels eternal. You're beginning to wonder if there's a secret cheat code to bypass this section. Maybe find a fast travel point. But Conan just plows forward, his broadsword occasionally catching the faint, eerie light, a grim beacon in the monochrome landscape. The silence now is not merely heavy, it's anticipatory. It feels as if the very air itself is holding its breath, waiting. You pull your collar higher, even though it does little good against the profound chill that emanates not from the sky, but from the ground, from the very stones beneath your feet. You've heard that old saying, "Still waters run deep." Well, these frozen waters run deeper, carrying with them currents of malice and ancient evil that are slowly but surely seeping out from under the ice. Just for a moment, you could swear you hear a distant, mournful wail carried on the wind, but it might just be the sound of your own chattering teeth. Or maybe something worse. Finding good cell service out here? Forget it. You'd be lucky to find a slightly less frozen berry that might not immediately induce hypothermia upon ingestion. And don't even think about finding a decent Wi-Fi signal. This journey isn't just about survival. It's about staying sane when the world itself seems to whisper insidious things in your ear. And you, walking in Conan's footsteps, are feeling every chilling word. The relentless, almost hypnotic rhythm of your heavy footsteps against the icy crust continues, a quiet counterpoint to the howling wind that constantly tugs at your furs. Remember those tracks, the ones that were just wrong? Well, as Conan pushes further, you begin to see more of them, fainter perhaps, sometimes partially obscured by drifts, but undeniably present. They suggest a pace, a purpose, that sends an unwelcome shiver down your spine. This isn't the ambling trail of a lost traveler. It's the swift, direct path of something heading somewhere with absolute conviction. And suddenly there it is, a faint, almost ghost-like shape materializing through a momentary thinning of the mists directly ahead. It's a horseman, riding at a speed that seems impossible given the treacherous, uneven terrain. The horse itself is a gaunt, skeletal creature, its coat the color of dried blood, steam pluming from its nostrils as it strains against the frigid air. And the rider? Your breath catches in your throat. They are wrapped in tattered, archaic garments, obscured by shadow and the swirling snow, but you catch glimpses of something utterly unnerving. The way they sit the saddle, too still, too rigid. No sign of discomfort from the cold, no visible breath plume. It's like watching a reanimated puppet, its joints too stiff, its movements oddly mechanical. You half expect it to suddenly swivel its head 180 degrees and whisper ancient incantations in Latin, like some bad horror movie villain. Seriously, where does one even buy outfits like that anymore? It definitely predates modern textiles, or even reasonably well-spun wool. Probably a custom job from a millennia-old tailor. Conan, however, doesn't hesitate. The sight of this spectral figure doesn't faze him. If anything, it crystallizes his suspicions. This is the source of the weird energy, the thing pulling him further into this god-forsaken frozen wasteland. He quickens his pace, keeping the phantom rider in view, never allowing the swirling veils of white to completely swallow it. You, tagging along, find yourself doing a surprising amount of cross-country cardio, a feat your usual cozy weekend activities do not prepare you for. You're beginning to miss your ergonomically designed desk chair and the gentle hum of your refrigerator. The terrain grows increasingly difficult. The faint tracks lead into a labyrinth of jagged rock formations, spires of ancient stone that pierce the overcast sky like the teeth of some colossal, long-dead beast. Deep, shadowy ravines open unexpectedly beneath your feet, forcing you to pick your steps with extreme caution. The wind whips through these narrow passages with renewed fury, sounding like the tormented souls of 1,000 frozen spirits, eager to drag you down into the icy abyss. You feel the tug at your cloak, almost as if unseen hands are reaching for you, trying to dissuade you, or perhaps simply to mess with your perpetually frayed nerves. You could really use a decent energy bar right about now, but all that's available is probably a frozen shrew, which isn't exactly high on the nutritional excitement list. This landscape truly feels forgotten, a remnant of a time before recorded history, untouched by the slow march of human civilization. Oddly enough, much like how deep-sea trenches remain some of the least explored environments on Earth, despite our advanced technology, revealing creatures and ecosystems vastly different from anything on the surface. There's a certain primordial dread in places like that, and Ganata has it in spades, right down to its bizarre geology. The horseman never looks back, never wavers. Its direction is clear, almost magnetically drawn to something ahead, something vast and unseen. And Conan, that stubborn, magnificent Cimmerian, is determined to follow this grim herald, no matter the peril. As you trail the strange pair, the desolate region unfolds into a relentless gauntlet of hazards. Icy inclines become steep cliffs that demand careful climbing. Patches of treacherous black ice hide beneath fresh dustings of snow, ready to send you sprawling. Conan moves with a primal sure-footedness, an innate understanding of how to traverse the unforgiving earth. You, on the other hand, are pretty sure you've slipped about 20 times, gracefully, or not so gracefully, averting serious injury with what little core strength you've managed to cultivate in your otherwise sedentary lifestyle. You just pray your teeth don't crack from constant chattering. Fun fact, the Inuit people, living in some of Earth's harshest cold environments, developed snow goggles from bone or ivory with narrow slits to prevent snow blindness. A practical innovation you really could have used about 5 sections ago, given the relentless glare off all this white stuff. The very air thickens as you penetrate deeper, taking on an oppressive, almost electric quality. It feels heavy, charged with something unseen. The occasional bizarre rock formation now seems less like natural erosion and more like deliberately carved monoliths arranged in patterns that are ancient, terrifyingly specific, and utterly meaningless to your modern eye. Perhaps they are markers pointing the way, or perhaps they are warnings to turn back. Warnings that, naturally, Conan entirely ignores. It's a bit like when you see an exit ramp on a long drive and think you don't need to stop, but then realize too late that the next rest stop is 2 hours away. Except, in this case, the rest stop is probably just a giant hungry spider, so maybe staying on the path is the better choice. Historians still debate the origins of megastructures found in seemingly uninhabited ancient landscapes. Were they truly ceremonial sites, navigational aids, or simply unusual geological features that inspired myths? The massive unnatural stones you're seeing now certainly fit into that category. The horseman and its chilling mount continue their unhurried but unstoppable progress, always just ahead, always leading you deeper into the heart of something genuinely dark. This isn't a quick trek. It's a marathon of dread. The silence is profound now, unbroken even by the wind in stretches, creating a vacuum that presses against your ears. And in that terrifying stillness, you hear it, faint but distinct, the clang of iron from somewhere far ahead. It's a sound that should be out of place in such a natural, primordial wilderness, but it feels grimly appropriate here, echoing with an unnatural resonance. Whatever this phantom rider is leading Conan towards, it's not natural, it's not benevolent, and it certainly won't be handing out participation trophies. Brace yourself, because the temperature isn't the only thing dropping. Your heart might be next. You've been tracking that spectral horseman for what feels like eons, your muscles screaming in protest, every joint aching with the insidious cold, the relentless clang of iron that drifted on the wind at the end of the last section grows steadily, subtly louder, no longer just a faint echo, but a definitive rhythmic sound. It's a sound that seems to tear at the oppressive silence of Ganata, ripping away the shrouds of mystery and dread that have enveloped you. The mist, which has been your constant, suffocating companion, begins to shift, to swirl in unnatural patterns, responding to some unseen current, or perhaps a deliberate will. Then, through a sudden, dramatic parting of the swirling vapor, it reveals itself. Directly ahead, looming out of the pale, washed-out landscape, stands something so impossibly vast and ancient that your mind struggles to process its scale. It's a fortress, but unlike any you've ever imagined. This isn't just a building. It's an obscenity of architecture, a grim monument to primordial terror. Black basalt, jagged and uncompromising, forms its immense walls, reaching up into the perpetually gray sky, so dark they seem to absorb the meager light around them. The stonework is cyclopean, composed of blocks so titanic that it defies all logic, making you wonder what kind of hands, or indeed what kind of beings, could have possibly lifted and set such immense weights. It's completely unlike anything built by humans. There's no mortar visible, the stones fitted with a terrifying precision, forming seamless, impregnable surfaces that deflect the light and the wind alike. Spiked parapets pierce the mist like shattered teeth, and the few windows you can discern are like black, dead eyes staring out at the frozen waste. It feels less like a structure built by someone, and more like something that erupted from the very earth itself, a cancerous growth on the landscape. You half expect to see danger hazardous materials signs posted around it, because that's the kind of vibe it gives off, like a supervillain's secret lair, only older, colder, and far more likely to leave you frozen stiff before the first boss fight. Forget an elaborate security system. This place's main defense is just overwhelming, ancient dread. And then you see it, standing proudly, or perhaps malevolently, in the heart of the fortress, rising even above its tallest towers, is an idol. It's truly gargantuan, dwarfing even the most massive statues from any recorded human civilization. This is the Ymir idol, an object of worship so fearsome it sends a primal chill down your spine that bypasses your furs and goes straight to your bone marrow. It is carved from some impossibly dark stone, veined with a chillingly vibrant metallic sheen, giving it the appearance of frozen, living shadow. It depicts a being of grotesque proportions, vaguely humanoid, but twisted into something monstrous and primordial. Huge, horned, and bestial, its features are both formless and profoundly menacing, embodying a malevolent force that has no place in the ordered world. Its very presence radiates a cold, crushing aura, and you instinctively recoil, even at this distance. It's so big, you start thinking about the logistical nightmares involved in its construction. Excuse me, Mr. Ymir Sculptor, could you please tilt your head slightly for this angle? No, wait, that's not quite. Ugh, can we just use a smaller rock next time? The air around the fortress, which was already frigid, drops several degrees, as if the unholy thing sucks the very warmth out of existence. Conan pauses, not out of fear, but out of grim recognition. He's seen evil before, battled elder horrors and cosmic terrors. But this ancient, reawakened entity, radiating power like a decaying star, presents a unique challenge. You feel the tremor in the ground even now, a low, persistent thrum that isn't quite geological, but rather energetic. The clanging, which you attributed to construction or decay, now seems to emanate from within the very structure, almost as if the fortress itself is a vast, mechanical, breathing entity. Historians still debate whether monolithic structures across the world were primarily ceremonial, defensive, or perhaps, as some more fringe theories suggest, energy conductors, or places designed to channel primal forces. This particular edifice definitely leans towards the latter, though probably not in a benevolent, healing energy kind of way. Conan tightens his grip on his sword, the Cimmerian's natural disdain for such unholy blasphemies etched plainly on his rugged face. He is drawn forward, not just by curiosity, but by a warrior's grim determination to confront and annihilate such pervasive darkness. You, however, find yourself contemplating the tactical advantage of retreating to a nice, warm igloo with a roaring fire and perhaps a perpetually refilling mug of cocoa. Alas, Conan clearly doesn't subscribe to the better safe than sorry school of thought when cosmic horrors are involved. His philosophy seems to be punch it till it stops doing the scary thing, which honestly you have to respect. As you draw closer, the sheer scale of the fortress becomes even more overwhelming. The walls seem to lean outwards, threatening to crush you. The silence, when the wind momentarily dies down, is punctuated by a chilling, subtle grinding sound, a deep hum that resonates in your teeth, as if massive gears are turning somewhere deep within the structure. It's unnervingly organic, almost as if the black stone lives and breathes. An odd fact you just recalled, which might have nothing to do with anything. But then again, perhaps it's entirely relevant in a subconscious fear-mongering way. Did you know that ancient Roman engineers sometimes used volcanic ash in their concrete mixtures, allowing it to solidify underwater and create incredibly durable structures that have lasted for millennia? Maybe this place was built with some ancient equivalent, but instead of volcanic ash, they used frozen nightmares. That would certainly explain its ominous permanence. Conan moves with silent intent towards a massive crumbling gate, partially buried under centuries of ice and rockfall, guarded by twin, impossibly large, and oddly shaped pylons. You half expect laser grids or a giant "enter at your own risk" sign. But no, just the oppressive aura of something deeply, irrevocably wrong. You're definitely past the point of casual exploration now. This is full-blown confrontation territory. Every fiber of your being is screaming for you to stop, to turn back, to ignore the bizarre compulsion that drives Conan relentlessly forward. But you can't. You're right there, standing with the wind whipping your hair, the immense, terrifying Ymir idol, towering above you, the silent promise of monstrous revelations and untold horrors waiting just inside those gaping shadowed doors. Your next bedtime story might very well feature how to properly apply a tourniquet using only your wits and a really stiff sock. Just a little something to consider before we plunge into the heart of the darkness. The oppressive aura of the colossal Ymir idol and the cyclopean fortress presses down on you, a physical weight in the icy air. As Conan strides towards the gaping maw of the ruined gate, more like a gash in the unholy black stone than a mere entrance, you find yourself holding your breath, your heart hammering a frantic, muffled rhythm against your ribs. The clang of iron is now distinct, but it's not the steady rhythmic hum you'd expected from some giant machinery. It's sporadic metallic scraping, like something being dragged, something being pulled from deep within the fortress's grim interior. The faint sound of disturbed ice or falling debris echoes strangely. Your gut screams at you. This isn't just abandoned, it's lying in wait. Conan, however, is a man whose gut tells him to charge, not to retreat. His movements remain fluid, deceptively casual, as he steps over fallen blocks of ancient basalt, navigating the frozen detritus of forgotten ages. The very air shimmers here, visibly vibrating with an unnatural energy. It's a bit like standing too close to a transformer box and feeling that low, powerful hum that just isn't quite right. Suddenly, a sickening crunch sounds from above, like splintering wood mixed with tearing metal, though you see no wood. Before you can even process the sound, something erupts from the darkness of the fortress's maw. It's too fast, too sudden, a blur of jagged metal and shadowy movement. You flinch back instinctively, stumbling on a loose chunk of ice, a surprised gasp catching in your throat. And just as Conan swivels, his hand already on his sword, the ambush springs with brutal, bone-jarring force. This isn't just one assailant. They seem to materialize from the shadows like nightmarish gargoyles, tearing themselves free from their stony perches. These attackers are unlike anything you've ever seen. Tall, gaunt figures, clad in archaic, rust-colored armor that seems crudely hammered and fused directly onto their desiccated flesh. Their faces, if you can even call them that, are horrifying, distorted things, perhaps desiccated by eons of entombment, or perhaps just never human to begin with. Their eyes are sunken, pinpricks of malevolent light glowing faintly in the shadowed sockets. And their weapons are just as monstrous. Long curved blades that gleam dully in the oppressive twilight. Scythes made of obsidian, wickedly serrated axes of what looks like iron, each bearing the grim patina of unfathomable age. You suddenly appreciate the simple elegance of a well-balanced broadsword compared to whatever blunt, heavy, utterly inefficient nightmares these things are wielding. They're clearly going for maximum fright factor over ergonomic design. The first strike is aimed at Conan's head, a blur of rust-colored steel, but he parries it with the fluid, impossible speed that only a Cimmerian warrior honed in countless brutal battles possesses. The clang of metal against metal reverberates sharply, shockingly loud in the muted air. These aren't just empty suits of armor, rattling constructs. They fight with a malevolent intelligence, their movements unnaturally swift, a horrifying blend of raw power and skeletal grace. You notice with a chill that they move almost silently, the clang of their armor and weapons being the only indicators of their presence. They make no vocal sounds, no grunts, no battle cries, just the chilling symphony of steel. This lack of sound is unnerving, like fighting an especially determined mannequin army. If the mannequins wanted to introduce you to their razor-sharp knitting needles, there are more than a dozen of them, seemingly bursting forth from hidden niches within the walls, emerging from under piles of rock that you swear were solid just moments ago. It's like the fort itself is shedding them, birthing an army of its horrors. This feels like the part in the movie where the main character says, "Looks like I've got company," then rolls their eyes, because of course they do. Except here, you're the sidekick, and you're mostly trying to not be company. Conan, however, seems invigorated. The Cimmerian warrior thrives on challenge, and a direct assault by reanimated, armor-clad abominations is definitely his preferred way of saying hello to a new cosmic horror. His mighty sword, which before seemed merely imposing, now moves with the speed of a striking viper, cleaving through ancient metal and sinew with terrifying ease. Sparks fly in the dim light, momentarily illuminating the gruesome forms of his assailants. These creatures bleed, but their blood is not red. It's a dark, viscous ichor that resembles rusty oil, thickening instantly on the icy ground. Their wounds don't gush, they simply stop functioning. A clean severing of a limb leaves a still flailing appendage that oddly refuses to die until whatever dark spark animating it completely extinguishes. You instinctively take a step back, heart thumping like a drum. You're definitely regretting that last snack you ate, given the sudden urge to part ways with it. It brings to mind certain medieval legends where animated armor or constructs were brought to life through dark magic, a common trope in folklore. The golem legends, for example, from Jewish folklore, speak of figures brought to life from inanimate materials, though usually golems don't come equipped with rusty swords and the intense desire to ruin your whole day. The battle rages around you, a whirlwind of ancient violence. Conan is a living dynamo, blocking, parrying, and counterattacking with brutal efficiency. One of the grotesque figures charges you, its weapon raised, its dead eyes locked onto your form. your mind goes blank with terror. Just as it lunges, Conan, seemingly without even looking, spins, deflecting the attack with a practiced swipe of his mighty sword that sends the creature careening backward, collapsing into a heap of clanging armor and brittle bone. He doesn't say anything, but the slight lift of his eyebrow seems to imply, "Get it together, rookie." Or maybe, "Did you really think that was going to work?" Historians still debate the efficacy of various historical armors and weapons in actual combat versus their symbolic or ceremonial purposes. But one thing is clear: what Conan is facing is an antiquated, terrifyingly resilient threat. This armor isn't merely decorative, it's designed for maximum lethality. There's a particular ghastly chill when one of the fallen figure's helms cracks open, revealing only empty shadow and the barest glint of ancient bone. Are they automatons, or were they once living men, now horrific mockeries, bound to serve whatever vile thing dwells within the fortress? Academics and scholars often argue over the concept of unclean dead in ancient mythologies, whether they are true revenants, cursed spirits, or simply allegorical representations of disease or moral corruption. In this case, you're pretty sure unclean dead isn't allegorical. It's quite literal, and smells faintly of grave mold. As Conan fights, another chilling observation surfaces. He's not just fighting them, he's trying to not let them back into the main fortress. Every time one gets close to an entry point, Conan drives it back with a fierce, almost protective shove. This ambush, while lethal, seems less about stopping him and more about trapping him outside, or perhaps consuming him utterly. You suddenly realize that these creatures aren't merely guardians, they might also be expendable units, deployed as a diversion for something far greater lurking within. You gulp, remembering the scale of the Emir idol, the palpable malevolence. Suddenly a strange, guttural wail tears through the icy air. It doesn't come from any of the attackers, but from somewhere within the fortress, echoing deep from its impenetrable heart. The armored figures falter, a momentary pause in their relentless assault. It's almost as if the wail is a command, or perhaps a warning to them. In that split second, Conan seizes the opportunity. He lunges forward, carving a path through the remaining monstrous combatants, leaving a trail of shattered iron and decaying bodies. The way is open. He gestures with his head towards the now clear entrance, a grim invitation. The surprise attack has failed, but its purpose might have been something else entirely. To distract from an even greater threat emerging from the ancient darkness, perhaps? Your heart sinks with a heavy dread, but the warmth from the expended effort is a small comfort, at least for a moment. Next stop? Interior decorating tips for undead fortresses, where the theme is always maximal misery, minimal lighting. You scramble forward, barely keeping up with Conan as he surges into the relative darkness of the fortress's ruined entryway. The cacophony of clanging iron and brutal impacts of the ambush has faded, replaced by an unsettling, profound silence that presses against your eardrums. You can still taste the faint metallic tang of rusted iron and old blood in the air, a constant reminder of the battle you just barely survived. The chill inside is different now, colder, more profound, and laden with the ancient scent of decay, dust, and something else, a coppery, almost electrical scent that raises the hairs on your arms. You are in the belly of the beast now, literally, and it feels as though the massive stone walls are breathing, or perhaps simply watching. Suddenly, from a shadowy niche deep within the fortress, a figure emerges, startling you so profoundly that you actually yelp, earning you a swift, if subtle glance from Conan. Your natural survival instinct kicks in, thinking it's another one of those armored monstrosities. But no, this figure is distinctly, vibrantly human. She's a woman, strikingly beautiful despite the grim setting, her dark hair a wild cascade framing features that are etched with ancient sorrow and profound determination. Her eyes, though, are what truly capture you, piercing, unnervingly bright, and full of an age-old wisdom that transcends the barren, desolate setting. Her garments are unlike anything you've ever seen, a rich, dark material, clearly ancient, but immaculately preserved, almost shimmering as if woven with frost itself. Her appearance here, in this impossible place, is like a sudden splash of color in a monochrome nightmare, an unasked-for and slightly terrifying reprieve. This is Zaporoska, and her voice, when she speaks, is a low, husky whisper, carrying remarkable resonance in the dead air. "You are Conan of Cimmeria," she states, her gaze unwavering, clearly recognizing the barbarian from prophecies or whispers, even older than he is. "I have awaited you. The true battle begins now." Her voice has a strangely soothing quality, almost like a guided meditation track, but one that promises imminent, horrific doom, instead of peaceful sleep. Then comes the bombshell. Her face hardens, and a grave, prophetic warning issues forth from her lips. "Khosatral has awakened! The Iron Devil returns!" The very words send a ripple of unease through the frigid air, almost as if the fortress itself shivers in response. You recall scattered whispers, fragmented nightmares from long-forgotten lore about this Iron Devil, a name synonymous with unspeakable horror, ancient malice, and a being whose cruelty predates even the dawn of man. Legends sometimes hint at things that make even the strongest men shiver in their sleep, and the Iron Devil was definitely on that top 10 list of things you don't want to bump into after dark. Apparently, it was on the top 1 list for the entire Hyperborean age. You had to wonder if anyone ever just tried mailing Khosatral a fruit basket, politely requesting he not, awaken and ruin everyone's millennia. Probably not. Zaporoska explains in stark, terrifying detail that Kel is not merely awakened, he is regenerating, gathering his power within this unholy citadel, draining the very essence of the ancient land. She warns Conan that Khosatral, often thought to be a demon or a devil of myth, is something far more ancient, something elemental. She describes his former terror, not just destruction, but insidious corruption, twisting minds and blighting lands wherever his shadow fell. His return spells an eternal night for the world, a kingdom of iron and frost, where agony is worship, she intones, her eyes burning with an internal fire. It's a vision so bleak, you start wondering if any good Wi-Fi signals exist in eternal night scenarios. Probably not. This also reminded you of a funny and odd fact. Did you know that the term Devil's Dictionary was coined by Ambrose Bierce, where he provided cynical, witty redefinitions of common words? If Kel had a dictionary, fun would probably be redefined as excruciating torture endured for millennia. Conan, surprisingly, listens intently, his features etched with grim resolve. He isn't swayed by dramatic pronouncements, but Zaporoska's directness and palpable conviction clearly resonate with his warrior's instinct for truth. He can feel the power of this awakened entity, an oppressive force field of dread, emanating from the very core of this fortress. Her words are not mere myth-spinning. They are a vital strategic briefing, clarifying the nature of the enemy he faces. Historians still debate the role of prophecy in ancient societies. Was it true foresight, shrewd political manipulation, or a combination of both? Zaporoska's warnings feel profoundly real, emanating not from a desire to control, but to desperately avert global catastrophe. Her wisdom isn't just theoretical, it's steeped in millennia of observation, a keen awareness of forces beyond human comprehension. Zaporoska reveals that she has been a sentinel here, bound to watch, bound to wait, perhaps even to suffer, for millennia, guarding against this very moment. Her survival is a testament to immense personal power, a deep understanding of arcane arts, and perhaps a singular, terrible purpose. "I am one of the Watchers," she explains, her voice dropping to a near whisper. My kind was tasked long ago to monitor the prison of Kel, but his power grew beyond our anticipation. He stirred the ancient magic, twisted it to his will, the fortress itself. It's alive now, feeding him. The very thought of this place being a living entity makes the hairs on your neck prickle. It puts a whole new spin on haunted house. This is less a house and more a sentient, actively malevolent parasite. She guides them through the dark, echoing passageways, navigating the crumbling architecture with uncanny familiarity, her eyes luminous even in the oppressive gloom. Conan follows, his hand never leaving his sword hilt, his senses on high alert. The atmosphere grows denser, colder, tinged with a raw, metallic stench, like blood mingled with freshly forged iron. The air around them becomes heavy, vibrating with an ominous hum, as if the very atoms are resonating with Kel's growing power. This journey isn't just a physical traverse, it's a descent into the very essence of evil, where every step takes you deeper into the heart of something truly alien and destructive. As Zaporoska leads them, her warning echoes in your mind. He seeks to devour the warmth, the light, the life from this world, transforming it into an iron hell. This isn't just about survival now, it's about averting a primordial, global catastrophe. You, a mere observer, suddenly feel the immense weight of this burden. Your comfy bed seems very far away, replaced by the chilling reality of ancient prophecy and a waking nightmare. And somehow, you're just a spectator to this historical moment, desperately hoping that Conan's mighty sword is enough to counter millennia of brewing evil, and that Zaporoya Oska's visions don't end in utter annihilation. No pressure, just the fate of the Hyborian world on the line, delivered via an elegant, ancient woman who probably also really wishes she had a warm blanket and a cat right now. You are moving deeper into the fortress now, following Zaporoska's unerring guidance through its dark, labyrinthine passages. The sheer scale of this place, which felt daunting from the outside, becomes almost incomprehensible once you're inside. Hallways stretch into gloom, vanishing into depths where your eyes cannot penetrate. The very air pulses with a malevolent hum that grows steadily more distinct, a low, resonating thrum that you feel in your teeth, your bones, and even disturbingly, in the pit of your stomach. It's like the sound of an immense rusty engine churning, but an engine made of stone and powered by ancient dread. The chilling cold, once merely an atmospheric condition, now feels like an intentional oppression, radiating from the very fabric of the fortress itself, clinging to your skin like icy fingers. As you navigate these echoing catacombs, Zaporoska suddenly gestures towards an exposed section of wall, illuminated by an ethereal, internal glow that seems to come from nowhere. "Look," she whispers, her voice barely audible over the internal thrum. You squint, your eyes adjusting to the strange, otherworldly light. It's not a wall of cut stone, not in the traditional sense. It's more like a living, solidified magma, constantly shifting with a faint, imperceptible movement beneath a thin veneer of icy crystalline rock. You can see ancient root-like tendrils, not of plants, but of something metallic and organic, coiling through the solidified mass. It looks less like concrete, and more like a monstrous, slow-moving geode. And then, she delivers the truth, casually dropping a bomb on your already frayed nerves that reshapes everything you thought you knew about this nightmare structure. "The fortress," she murmurs, "is not merely on Ganata. It is Ganata, or at least a significant part of it. It's a sentient landmass, carved out of the ice, infused with ancient power, and now animated by Khosatral Kel." You blink. Wait, what? So you're not just inside an old fort. You're inside a walking mountain of evil? That's definitely not in any guidebooks. Your internal GPS just threw up its hands and went on strike. Forget the historical factoid for a moment. How about the terrifying reality that your current floor might actually have feelings? What if it's upset about your footprint? Does it charge extra for personal space violations? These are the real questions, people. The implication sinks in, a truly terrifying reality check. This massive, impossible black fortress isn't static. It's a living, deliberate entity. It has been moving. This explains the unsettling tremor, the way the landscape seemed to change subtly around you, the sudden shifting of the mists earlier. The very ground you are walking on is actively relocating itself, purposefully journeying deeper into its sinister design, likely towards something even more monstrous than what you've already seen. It reminds you, vaguely, of the theory of plate tectonics, where Earth's outer layer is made of large, constantly moving plates. Except, instead of continents moving a few centimeters a year, this entire segment of Earth seems to be galloping along, powered by dark magic, not convection currents. And it's not for scenic cruises, you can bet that much. Historians still debate the origin and meaning of ancient megastructures like Göbekli Tepe or the Great Pyramids. Were they mere architectural feats, or attempts to manipulate Earth energies, or even tap into some primordial consciousness? But the Hyborian Age makes those discussions seem quaint. Here, the pyramid you're exploring is the consciousness, a titanic entity brought to life by sorcery. Zaporoska clarifies that Kosatralkel has twisted this naturally occurring magical nexus, a vein of ancient raw power beneath Ganata, into a mobile prison, and now, his vessel Tsudeul of resurrection. The stone beneath your feet isn't just solid, it's vibrant, pulsing, as if it has a monstrous circulatory system pumping some unseen, horrific essence through its veins. The hum you hear is not gears. It's the vibration of immense, impossible energies being drawn from the Earth itself, feeding the emerging nightmare within. As you walk, the air shifts around you, currents of warmth and cold washing over you in strange, unsettling ways. It's a bit like having a broken air conditioner where random blasts of super hot or super cold air hit you when you least expect it. Except, in this case, the air conditioning is the demon, and it's very grumpy. Zaporoska confirms that this floating island, this monstrous geological leviathan, is actively gathering power. It's essentially a giant, self-sustaining battery, charging up its monstrous occupant for some devastating, world-altering purpose. Imagine your phone charger, but instead of charging your phone, it's charging an ancient evil entity designed to bring about the literal apocalypse. Slightly higher stakes, wouldn't you say? Oddly, and this might seem entirely off-topic, but sometimes our brains make strange connections under stress. The concept of biomimicry in modern design, where engineers look to natural organisms for design solutions, is fascinating. Imagine trying to design a mobile fortress like this. Perhaps Kell used a warped version of biomimicry, drawing inspiration from parasitic fungi, or perhaps deep-sea anglerfish. It certainly explains the unspeakable nature of this place. The ancient walls feel strangely spongy in parts, yielding slightly beneath your hand before firming back up. This gives you a deep, visceral unease. It's not just rock, it's organic rock, and it's purposeful. Conan walks with an even more pronounced, grim determination now. The realization that his enemy is literally driving a continent-sized weapon gives new meaning to target acquisition. He's no longer just infiltrating a fort, he's infiltrating a sentient war machine, a colossal monster of stone and malevolence. His broadsword, which always seems adequate for most threats, now feels slightly insufficient, like trying to fix a planetary orbital issue with a screwdriver. You watch him closely, hoping that signature glint in his Cimmerian eyes isn't a sign of newfound fear, but rather the ignition of an even more intense resolve, which, thankfully, it is. For Conan, larger challenge just means more fun. The air around you starts to get thick with something akin to static electricity. Your fur cloak, despite the frigid cold, feels like it's tingling. This is more than just atmosphere now. This is concentrated evil, radiating outward like a foul, unseen miasma. Zaporoska whispers that the deeper they go, the more direct their encounter with Kosatralkel's growing power will be. His essence infuses the rock, the very air you breathe here, she says, her voice hushed, as if even speaking his name too loudly might incur his wrath. It's like visiting a factory, and the deeper you go, the stronger the smell of whatever they're making gets. Except, in this case, it's not perfume or fresh baked bread. It's ancient evil, and probably a lingering scent of sulfur and disappointment. You shiver again, and it's not just the cold. It's the growing realization that your body is being invaded by this malevolence just by being here. It's certainly a unique way to start your day. Or, end it. Hopefully not. The unsettling truth that you are currently standing inside a sentient, monstrous, mobile landmass has definitely altered your perspective. That humming vibration beneath your feet is no longer just background noise. It's the profound tremor of an immense, deliberate entity, shuddering with dark purpose. The very thought that the fortress, your supposed refuge from the biting winds of Ganata, is itself a part of the monstrousness you've been chasing, sends a cold wave through your stomach that has nothing to do with the external temperature. Remember Zaporoska telling you this living monstrosity is charging itself up, like the world's most terrifying power bank for ultimate evil? That doesn't exactly inspire confidence, does it? Zaporoska, with her eerie calm and unnerving prescience, leads the way. She gestures not towards any obvious gate, but towards a narrow fissure, a hairline crack in the cyclopean basalt that looks impossibly small, a mere seam in the living rock. "This way," she whispers, her voice like rustling leaves in a dead forest. "A passage known only to my kind. Sealed long ago, but no seal is eternal when faced with pure malevolence. Or pure Cimmerian determination, I suppose," she adds with a flicker of something almost akin to a smile, directing her gaze towards Conan. You eye the crack. It's barely wide enough for one person, forcing you to turn sideways and shuffle. Forget bringing your emotional baggage. You'll be lucky if you can squeeze your physical body through without scraping a knee, let alone bringing anything thicker than a paper towel. Conan, surprisingly, wedges his massive frame through with minimal fuss, a testament to his flexibility, or perhaps the fortress accommodating him. Shudder. Inside, the air is not just cold, but still, heavy, like the breathless interior of an ancient tomb. The raw chill of Ganata outside seems almost fresh by comparison. Here, the very cold feels like an extension of something unnatural, an icy, suffocating dread. You press against the clammy living rock walls, trying to avoid tripping on loose rubble, or perhaps stepping on some ancient monstrous spore that might sprout terrifying tentacles from your shoe. This place redefines dungeon crawl. It's less adventure and more panic attack waiting to happen, especially since you're constantly reminding yourself that the floor, walls, and ceiling might decide to shift their alignment, or simply absorb you. As you push deeper, the faint, grinding hum of the living isle beneath your feet grows more distinct, a constant low groan that resonates from the very rock. And then you hear it, a low, rasping cough, followed by the clink of metal against stone, echoing from deeper within the cavernous darkness. You tense, instantly aware that the deeper penetration of the keep will certainly involve confronting its inner denizens, the true guardians bred or reanimated in Kosatralkel's horrifying image. This isn't going to be a walk in the park. It's a descent into an active, malevolent biological experiment lab, complete with a security system designed by 1,000 years of pure evil. Sure enough, a few minutes later, your path opens into a vast, unlit cavern, only illuminated by faint, intermittent glows emanating from cracks in the wall, revealing monstrous forms shuffling in the gloom. These are different from the armored horrors you faced outside. These are Kosatralkel's corrupted progeny, beings warped and twisted by his dark sorcery. They look vaguely reptilian, but their flesh is encased in a kind of metallic, segmented hide, almost like living armadillos, but ones armed with clawed hands and jaws that glint with wickedly sharp teeth. They emit a hissing sound, punctuated by deep, guttural growls. Some scuttle across the floor like monstrous spiders, while others cling to the cavern roof, their many eyes glowing faintly in the dim light like malicious fireflies. You feel your fight-or-flight instinct go full turbo, considering that playing dead probably won't fool things that don't actually live in the traditional sense. Conan doesn't miss a beat. His Cimmerian senses, honed by countless brushes with death, are on full alert. Before any of the creatures can truly react to your intrusion, he plunges forward, a blur of muscle and gleaming steel. His greatsword is a flashing arc, slicing through the grotesque creatures with grim efficiency. He favors swift, brutal strikes, cleaving off limbs or outright decapitating the monstrous abominations. The creatures emit shrill, screeching cries that scrape at your sanity, and their metallic blood, viscous and sickly black, sputters onto the frigid ground, freezing almost instantly. Their bodies clatter to the ground like broken mannequins made of razor wire, still twitching unsettlingly for a few moments before going still. I've faced worse. Mostly my aunt on holidays, Conan might not say, but you can feel the sentiment. Zaporoska, meanwhile, is not idle. As Conan engages the immediate threat, she raises a hand, murmuring ancient words that ripple through the air, causing certain pathways in the cave to briefly shimmer and reveal themselves before fading. She's less of a warrior and more of a subtle manipulator, guiding Conan through the most direct path and warding off smaller, insidious threats with bursts of cold, blue-white light that cause the lurking creatures to recoil or dissolve. This place is less about brute force and more about navigating an intricate system of horrors and illusions. Imagine trying to bypass an old computer system, but the firewall is made of existential dread, and the security questions involve knowing ancient demons' middle names. Oddly, and perhaps because your mind is desperately seeking distractions, you recall that the ancient practice of geomancy, predicting the future by interpreting markings on the ground, involved a belief that certain geographical points hold special energy or influence. In the Hyborian Age, they've clearly taken that concept to a new level. This whole fortress is a gigantic geomancy experiment gone horribly right, or perhaps horribly wrong, depending on your perspective. You're definitely a wrong perspective kind of person right now. Historians still debate the practical applications of specific rituals in ancient defensive architecture. Were certain stones chosen for their properties, or specific rites performed to bind spirits or energy to a structure? This living fortress feels like it embodies those very ancient magical practices, warped and intensified. Every shadow seems to conceal a new horror. Every corner could hold a grotesque trap. There's a certain oppressive weight in the air here, a suffocating silence when the fighting dies down, almost as if the very sound is being absorbed by the stone. It's truly unlike any place of ancient ruin you've ever explored. No creaky doors or echoing footsteps, just silent, monstrous lurking. This is clearly a job for pest control, but with an interdimensional and supernatural twist. As you push on, the deeper corridors begin to look less like natural caverns and more like deliberately carved tunnels, though carved by forces unknown. The air, already thick with the stench of ancient dust and decay, takes on a new, pungent odor, coppery and sulfuric, a smell that seems to precede genuine demonic activity. The vibration intensifies, becoming a throbbing, rhythmic pulse that you can now clearly differentiate from mere ground tremors. It's the beating heart of the Iron Devil, resonating deep within the core of this terrible, mobile island. You glance at Conan. Even his usually impassive Cimmerian face is set in a hard, grim line, a clear sign that whatever is ahead is pushing even his limits of tolerable Tuesday evening entertainment. Your own limits, meanwhile, were probably reached somewhere back around the initial cold welcome. You can feel it. You're nearly at the core, on the precipice of revealing the true source of Ganata's monstrous agony. No sleep for you tonight. You're a bit like a bewildered tourist now, deep within a place that actively defies logic, gravity, and good taste. The pulsating thrum of the living island beneath your feet is more pronounced than ever, vibrating up your legs and rattling in your bones, a constant reminder that you're moving, not just through a static ruin, but within the bowels of an immense, deliberate entity. The oppressive cold, too, has evolved. It's no longer just frigid, but damp, cloying, carrying with it a cocktail of truly disturbing odors. It's a combination of rust, stagnant water, damp earth, something acrid like scorched metal, and, disturbingly, a faint, sweet smell that reminds you vaguely of formaldehyde and decay, but in a way that suggests a purposeful decay. Zaporoska leads you down increasingly narrow, winding passages that sometimes twist sharply, sometimes expand into small, clammy chambers. The rough-hewn basalt walls occasionally give way to smoother, dark stone, eerily polished, reflecting the ambient gloom like oily mirrors. The few glows you see come from strange, luminescent fungi clinging to damp patches on the walls, or from faintly glowing crystals embedded directly in the living rock, shedding a pallid, unearthly light. It's the kind of lighting that suggests no emergency exits, and this place has seen things, man. Definitely not conducive to a relaxing vibe, even if you were here for a bizarre wellness retreat. You notice a pervasive sense of disquiet, as if every shadow is merely biding its time, waiting for you to look away before revealing something even more unsettling. And then, you enter the true heart of Kel's operations. It's not one vast cavern, but a series of interlocking, smaller chambers, some crudely carved, others formed by natural fissures within the living rock, connected by winding passages like veins. Here, the phrase grotesque experiments comes screaming to horrifying visceral life. Your eyes, straining in the dim, otherworldly light, take in sights that would give even your therapist nightmares for weeks. Slabs of polished black stone, slick with a glistening residue, serve as tables. Upon them lie twisted, inert forms, some clearly animalistic, others unsettlingly humanoid, their bodies grotesque amalgams of bone, sinew, and jagged iron fused directly into their flesh. They appear to be incomplete, horrifying biological diagrams left mid-lesson by a particularly sadistic tutor. One specimen, half scorpion and half human torso, seems to shudder faintly as you pass, the segmented iron of its body reflecting the dim light like malevolent scales. Another is a gaunt, human-like skeleton, its ribs replaced by menacing metallic spikes that protrude outwards, while its joints appear reinforced with crude, bolted-on plates. These aren't just dead things, they're objects of dark curiosity, warped into unspeakable hybrids, products of a deranged mind, tinkering with the very fabric of life. You're beginning to wonder if there's an ancient version of OSHA, because the lack of safety gloves, proper ventilation, and clear biohazard signage is absolutely appalling. Bubbling vats, fashioned from scooped-out sections of the living rock, emanate foul greenish vapors that cling low to the floor. Strange, unidentifiable parts, glands, metallic shards, tubes of glistening sinew, float suspended within the viscous liquid. You catch faint clinking sounds from deeper within the rooms, almost like ancient medical instruments being carefully arranged, or perhaps something being painstakingly, deliberately built. It's all very methodical, deeply disturbing, and distinctly not the kind of home improvement project you'd see on social media, unless it was a highly controversial "What I Built While Unwell" vlog. You mentally check to ensure you haven't inadvertently stepped in anything resembling a leftover bioproduct. This isn't the kind of floor where you want to drop your phone. One small chamber reveals crude tools hanging from rusted hooks. Scalpels of flaked obsidian, wicked bone saws, mallets stained with black-red residue, and long, curved needles that glimmer with unholy intent. Beside them are sketches, scrawled on some kind of dried, leathery membrane, depicting detailed, terrifying anatomies of creatures you've never seen in any natural history textbook. along with disturbing diagrams illustrating the fusion of metal and organic tissue. These aren't just studies of anatomy, they are blueprints for new forms of monstrosity. It's the kind of portfolio that definitely wouldn't get you into a prestigious art school, but might land you a starring role in an existential nightmare. Conan moves through these ghastly tableaux with a grim stoicism that truly makes you question your own squeamishness. His jaw is set, his grip on his sword never falters, but there's a flicker of something in his eyes, a cold, fierce anger at this abomination of life and death. He views this as a perversion, an affront to the natural order, far worse than any mere savagery. For him, a straightforward battle is preferable to these insidious, twisting corruptions. Historians still debate the role of alchemy and proto-science in ancient civilizations. Were these pursuits purely for enlightenment, or, as some speculate, were they also deeply entwined with attempts to gain unnatural power or even create life? What you're seeing now certainly suggests the latter, twisted to its darkest extreme. Oddly enough, in thinking about twisted things, an odd, completely unrelated fact popped into your head. Did you know that human fingers lose their wrinkles in warm water, but form them in mold? That's what scientists have found, likely a remnant of an evolutionary adaptation to better grip wet objects. Maybe these creatures, half flesh, half metal, don't wrinkle at all. You truly hope you don't get a chance to test that theory on one of the less inert specimens. You hear muffled scuttling and soft, dry whispers from deeper in the shadows, things you can't quite discern, but that clearly signify the presence of still active experiments or lesser guardians. These are the lurking shadows of the outline, ever present, ever watchful. Your paranoia feels entirely justified. Every breath you take here tastes of dust and chemicals. Every glance yields some new, unnerving detail. Strange glowing fluid dripping from a crack in the ceiling, leaving smoking trails on the stone floor. A sudden low whine, like rusted machinery struggling to turn, emanating from deep beneath the earth, the unsettling rhythmic drip of an unseen liquid. This internal journey isn't just about progressing through physical space. It's a descent into the monstrous intellect of Kosatralkel, a chilling glimpse into the malevolence and scientific perversion that defines his nature. Zaporoska remains utterly focused, her face etched with a mix of dread and fierce resolve. She pauses, her gaze sweeping over one particularly disturbing tableau, a rack holding several emaciated mummified human bodies strung up like specimens, each displaying bizarre surgical modifications. His work grows more complete, she murmurs, her voice thin. He molds new forms, experiments with ancient flesh, forging an army for his dominion. This is not a lab you'd volunteer for. It's not a place for breakthroughs in medical science, unless the breakthrough is proving that certain forms of absolute depravity can be weaponized. The heavy, thrumming beat beneath your feet seems to accelerate slightly here, the very island pulsing with what feels like a mad, joyful energy, as if it recognizes its master's work, acknowledging the insidious creations around you. You are on the edge, pushing into the absolute heart of the horror, where Kel's resurrected form surely awaits. The only upside is that this truly gives you a whole new appreciation for, well, clean air and simple non-animated walls. It's the little things, you know? You've just navigated a labyrinth of pure nightmare, the chilling remnants of Kosatralkel's ghastly experiments still vividly burned into your memory. The unsettling tang of rusted metal, formaldehyde, and something sickly sweet still lingers in the air, clinging to your clothes and to the very lining of your sinuses. The heavy thrum of the living island beneath your feet feels almost like a malignant heartbeat now, pulsing with increased intensity, signaling your approach to the central horror. Your survival instincts are screaming, not in short, sharp bursts of fear, but in a long, drawn-out wail of primal terror, the kind that whispers run, flee, escape. But like Conan, you press on, or rather, you are pressed on. As Zaporoska guides you deeper and deeper through ever more ancient and disturbingly symmetrical passages, she begins to fill in the missing pieces of this cosmic horror story. Her voice, hushed and resonant in the profound stillness, details the grim history of Khosatral-Khel, revealing his sinister origins, not just as a creature of myth, but as an ancient, sentient force that predates the very concepts of good and evil as mankind understands them. "He is not merely a demon as your kind conceives of them," she intones, her words chilling you more effectively than the frigid air. "He is an ancient god-thing, born of the primal void, and bound by an earlier race whose name has long been dust." Khosatral-Khel, it turns out, is a fragment of the primordial chaos, a sentient chunk of raw, malignant cosmic energy that first manifested in the universe long before humanity began to walk the earth. He came from the darkness between the stars, a terrible, amorphous will to twist, corrupt, and ultimately consume. His early manifestations were said to cause not just devastation, but a blight upon reality itself. Lands warped into grotesque parodies, civilizations driven to madness, even the very fabric of existence unraveling at his malevolent touch. It's like finding out your slightly off neighbor isn't just socially awkward, but actually a cosmic entity whose awkwardness could shatter space-time. This god thing was, at some unfathomable point in the past, subdued and imprisoned by a powerful ancient race, a race of mighty sorcerers or beings whose powers dwarfed even those of the elder gods worshipped by other Hyperborean cultures. They couldn't destroy Khel. His very essence was too fundamental, too intertwined with the cosmos itself. Instead, they performed an epic feat of cosmic engineering, weaving potent spells and rituals to bind his physical form and contain his insidious will. This fortress, this sentient mobile island you are currently inside, is not just his lair, it is his prison, a gargantuan living trap meticulously crafted to hold something of unimaginable destructive potential. The very rock that forms its walls is imbued with ancient wards and bindings, or so they thought. Zaporoska confirms that this containment has held for millennia, centuries flowing like drops of water, until the ice claimed Ganata. The long sleep of the ages, combined with the extreme cold of Hyperborea, weakened the primal bonds, allowing Khel to begin stirring, subtly at first, then with increasing malevolence. She describes his slow, agonizing regeneration within his ancient prison. He has been leeching power, drawing vitality from the very land around him, absorbing ancient magical currents that permeated Ganata. This is why the land itself has become so blighted, so profoundly desolate. The creeping malevolence, the unsettling feeling you had back in Section 1, wasn't just cold. It was the world itself crying out as its essence was siphoned away by an awakened horror. It's like finding out your mysterious electricity bill wasn't due to leaving the lights on, but because a forgotten god entity was subtly charging his resurrection batteries through your cosmic smart meter. What a ripoff. The clanging sound that guided Conan here? That's the sound of Kale's rebirth, his reformation. He's been rebuilding his physical manifestation, fusing ancient materials with stolen energy, forging a new body, or perhaps an amplified version of his original ironclad form. That Ymir idol towering above the fortress? Zaporoska reveals it's not just an idol, but a focus for Kel's fragmented consciousness, a symbolic representation, and also a spiritual tether to his imprisoned essence. Breaking it might disrupt his awakening, but wouldn't truly vanquish him. The idol is merely a lens, a focal point. The true beast resides within this stone prison, she warns, her voice laced with chilling solemnity. This feels like finding out the villain in your favorite movie actually had a secret, more evil twin brother living in the attic. Historians still debate the cultural exchange and syncretism of ancient mythologies, whether gods and demons shared common archetypes across diverse cultures, or if such horrific entities were unique to their regional contexts. Kel's history transcends mere Hyborian lore, hinting at cosmic principles far beyond humanity's current understanding. He's not a local deity gone bad. He's universal malevolence distilled into a horrific, active form. Think of it as a deep philosophical debate, except the debate might just end with your consciousness being absorbed into an unholy living rock. Oddly, an off-topic fact related to energy storage pops into your mind. Did you know that some types of traditional batteries actually create electricity through chemical reactions? It's a very different process, but a strange analogy to Kel drawing essence to reconstitute himself. Only, instead of electrons, it's soul-shredding misery. And no, you can't just recycle him. This resurrection, it turns out, is about more than just personal vengeance. Khosatral Kel plans to finally shatter his millennia-old prison, not just to roam free, but to impose his iron dominion upon the entire Hyborian world, turning it into a reflection of his own twisted, desolate nature. A world of eternal frost, agony, and metal, where human will is merely a plaything for his horrific experiments. This is the definition of a global threat. Zaporoska's narrative creates a suffocating atmosphere of dread. The air feels heavy, pregnant with the nascent power of this re-emerging cosmic terror. You can feel a pervasive malevolence, radiating not just from the unseen heart of the fortress, but from the very rock itself, intensifying with every step. You're truly walking on borrowed time. This isn't just an antagonist for Conan to battle. It's an event, a primal force on the brink of being unleashed. Your eyes dart around, taking in the looming walls, suddenly feeling the weight of the ancient curses and wards that must be stretched to their absolute breaking point, precariously containing the devil in iron. Any moment now, they might snap, and you're still not sure you have any good options for rapid extraction, unless cease to exist counts as one. The journey deeper into Khosatral Kel's living fortress prison has escalated from a grim descent into terror to an unholy pilgrimage to the very nexus of ancient evil. The overwhelming thrum of the living island beneath you is no longer a vibration. It's a palpable resonance in your chest, a deep guttural hum that feels like the lowest note on a gigantic pipe organ made of granite and misery. The air, heavy with the metallic tang of blood and ancient rust, is almost painful to breathe, tasting like electricity and unfulfilled desires. Every shadow seems deeper, every glint of unnatural light more menacing. You know you're moments away from the heart of it, your instinct screaming for you to prepare, even if you're not entirely sure how you prepare for something that exists beyond human comprehension. Do you bring snacks? A comforting blanket? Probably not the right moment. Zaporoska, her face now grim, her luminous eyes wide with a mixture of dread and defiant resolve, slows her pace slightly before a final, towering archway. This archway is unlike any other in the fortress. It appears to have grown organically from the living rock, sculpted with twisted demonic motifs that writhe and undulate even as you watch, as if they're barely restrained. You glimpse what seems like countless frozen, screaming faces pressed into the stone, faces contorted in unimaginable torment, whispering silent tales of a forgotten era. It's like a particularly bad art installation, only it's 10,000 years old and significantly more likely to eat your soul. And then she pushes through. You stumble forward, breath catching in your throat as you are suddenly thrust into a vast, cavernous chamber, the true core of the monolithic evil that has driven you to the ends of the frozen world. The sheer scale of it is overwhelming, dwarfing any space you've ever imagined. The chamber is circular, its ceiling lost in perpetual shadow far above. But the immediate space is bathed in a lurid, pulsing glow, emanating from various fissures and crevices in the walls, painting everything in shades of deep violet and sickly green, interspersed with raw, throbbing streaks of coppery red. It's like stepping into a faulty lava lamp the size of a stadium, but with way more existential dread and less relaxing ambiance. In the dead center of this colossal chamber, dominating everything, stands the very same Ymir idol you glimpsed from the outside. But now, seen up close, it's even more monstrous, more malevolent. It's truly colossal, a towering obscenity of carved stone, jagged and asymmetrical, its form less a static sculpture, and more like a monstrous, petrified explosion of solidified primal fear. Its bestial head, with those crude horned protuberances, tilts upwards towards the unseen ceiling, as if sniffing the air, or perhaps silently communing with something beyond. The idol appears to be the ultimate expression of cosmic evil, less a representation of something evil, and more like something born of evil itself. This isn't your grandma's garden gnome. This thing could definitely cause the apocalypse, or at least a very uncomfortable spiritual cleansing. But the idol isn't alone. In fact, what's happening around the idol is truly the stuff of nightmares. From its base, rising with a terrifying slowness, is Kosatralkel himself, not yet fully formed, not yet whole, but visibly coalescing from the malevolence that pulses through the living rock. He is currently a half-formed, monstrous figure, a terrible gleaming being made of clashing iron, slagged stone, and pure, concentrated dark energy. Parts of him are still amorphous, molten shadows, rippling and swirling, as if in a constant state of internal combustion, but other parts are clearly visible. Immense, distorted limbs of twisted, burnished metal, the glint of what appears to be bone, or perhaps incredibly ancient, petrified sinew, fused within the raw iron. His body emanates a low, rhythmic, grinding sound, like colossal plates of rusty armor rubbing together, interspersed with sickening pops and crackles of dark energy. The light in the chamber pulses in horrifying synchronization with this internal grinding. He is truly the devil in iron, taking his horrifying form before your very eyes. You see his essence reaching out, unseen tendrils of corrupting force that snake towards the idol, drawing from it, absorbing something terrible into his coalescing frame. It's like watching an ancient file buffer on a slow internet connection, slowly downloading an update. Only this update is about to usher in a new era of cosmic agony. This would definitely crash your browser. Conan strides forward, his broadsword already partly drawn, the raw fury in his eyes almost palpable. His battle instinct, that pure, undiluted desire to smash anything monstrous, overpowers any sense of dread. He knows what he has to do. Zaporoska raises her hand, a desperate warning on her lips. Be cautious, Cimmerian. His regeneration is nearing completion. Attacking now might awaken him fully too soon. Her plea hints at an intricate balance, a cosmic dance of power and timing that they must adhere to. But Conan, as always, is less interested in cosmic dances and more interested in smashing the cosmic DJ's turntable. A subtle, disturbing fact you just noticed. There's a distinct lack of any visible support structures in this massive cavern. The ceiling just is. It feels as though the entire chamber is suspended in defiance of natural laws, a vast space carved by, or perhaps grown from, pure magical force. Historians and engineers still debate the construction techniques for structures like the Roman Pantheon, with its colossal, unreinforced concrete dome. How were these ancient builders able to create such immense, stable structures without modern steel reinforcement? But here, the engineers were not human, and the material seems to be sentient rock and raw evil. It's certainly a more aggressive approach to civil engineering. The pervasive thrum is strongest here, almost a roar. It vibrates through your teeth, threatening to dislodge fillings you didn't even know you had. You can practically feel Kel's fragmented mind working, gathering itself, an ancient, hateful intellect awakening from eons of slumber. He's oblivious to you for now, utterly focused on his horrific resurrection. It's like watching a terrifying chef painstakingly prepare the most awful meal imaginable, while totally unaware that a customer has accidentally wandered into the kitchen. and you're hoping Conan plays the role of a particularly disruptive food critic. Oddly, an off-topic fact floats into your mind, perhaps a subconscious effort to maintain sanity. Did you know that honey never spoils? Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are thousands of years old and still perfectly edible. Perhaps Kel should have taken up beekeeping instead of cosmic torture and building sentient iron fortresses. Much less fuss, significantly better for everyone's emotional well-being. Zaporoska, moving like a phantom, gestures frantically towards the idol. That! The idol is the key to slowing him! Break it, Cimmerian! Strike it before his essence fully absorbs it! Her voice is sharp, urgent, cutting through the horrifying symphony of grinding iron. Her desperation clearly communicates that whatever the idol represents for Kel, destroying it could potentially buy them crucial seconds, perhaps even shift the tide, albeit slightly. It's a classic RPG move. Ignore the boss. Hit the crystal. The entire chamber seems to hold its breath. Even the glowing fissures pulse faster. The ominous sounds of Kel's regeneration intensify, reaching a fever pitch. Conan's gaze is locked on the grotesque Ymir idol, his hand already lifting his heavy blade. This is the moment, the culmination of the long, terrifying journey through Ganata, the confrontation with the unimaginable horror, the source of all the despair. The weight of the Hyborian world suddenly feels incredibly heavy on your shoulders. You're not just watching history unfold, you're standing in it, on the front row seat of a horror show where the lead monster is buffering, and the hero is about to hit the restart button with extreme prejudice. Historians still debate the specific interpretations of idols and religious effigies in ancient cultures. Were they truly seen as conduits for deities, or merely symbolic representations for ritualistic practices? For Kel, this idol is clearly both symbolic and a very literal part of his horrifying resurrection apparatus, designed not just for worship, but for pure power transfer. This chamber, this being, this idol, it's all part of a truly unholy, malevolent machine, poised to unleash cosmic catastrophe. The tension in the air is so thick, you could probably slice it with a dull butter knife if you weren't afraid it would then start screaming at you. Prepare for impact, because something very, very loud and unpleasant is about to happen. The pulsating glow within the cavernous chamber intensifies, casting shifting shadows that dance like malicious specters across the colossal Ymir idol and the grotesque, coalescing form of Khosatral Kel. The air crackles with an almost palpable energy, a raw hum that resonates with Kel's horrifying regeneration, sounding like an industrial grinder operating at full throttle, chewing on something unyielding. Zaporoska's urgent plea, break it, strike it before his essence fully absorbs it, still hangs in the thick air, a desperate battle cry in a room where death looms large and terrifying. Conan, bless his utterly single-minded barbarian heart, doesn't need to be told twice. He is not one for dramatic pronouncements or prolonged tactical discussions when a monstrous threat presents itself. He hears, destroy, and acts with the swift, decisive action of a man whose default setting is heroically violent problem solver. With a primal roar that echoes off the obsidian-like walls of the chamber, cutting through the insidious hum, Conan lunges. He moves with incredible speed, a blur of bronze flesh and gleaming steel against the backdrop of pulsating dark energy. His target is singular, unyielding, the very core of the Ymir idol. You follow his charge, eyes wide with a desperate, fearful hope. You can practically feel the weight of eons, the terrible power the idol represents, radiating outwards like oppressive heat. It's like watching a train head straight for a particularly angry colossal brick wall. You can't look away. With a powerful two-handed swing, Conan brings his massive broadsword down with all the strength of his Cimmerian blood, all the fury accumulated from facing a journey of unrelenting terror and grotesque horrors. The blade, keen and heavy, cleaves through the very air, meeting the black, alien stone of the idol with a deafening crack! The sound is not merely a clash, it's a shattering resonance, a noise that shakes the very foundations of the sentient fortress. It sounds like a planetary ice sheet splitting open, followed by 100 orchestral cymbals having a really bad day, multiplied by pure evil. The impact is devastating. Where Conan's blade connects, jagged fissures immediately erupt, snaking outward like lightning bolts across the idol's immense, stony surface. Luminescent lines of icy blue energy briefly blaze within the cracks like veins of power exposed before sputtering and dying out. Chunks of the obsidian-like stone, some as large as your head, shatter and rain down, exploding into a shower of glimmering shards upon the cavern floor, leaving behind glowing, transient impressions. The air itself seems to recoil, twisting into a vortex of displaced energy and dark matter around the stricken idol. It's definitely not subtle. If the Ymir idol had feelings, it'd be asking for a Tylenol and probably some spiritual counseling. A chilling, drawn-out shriek, utterly devoid of humanity, lacerates the air. It's a sound that crawls into your skull, an echo of primeval anguish and monstrous rage, and it emanates directly from the coalescing form of Khosatral-Khel. He is still rooted near the idol, but the blow to his focal point has galvanized him, jolting him out of his focused regeneration. His half-formed, iron-clad body writhes and convulses violently. Molten metal flows over his amorphous parts like raging rivers, slamming into slagged stone and refusing into more definitive, horrific shapes with sickening sounds of wet grinding and popping. The subtle thrum of the chamber instantly skyrockets into an ear-splitting crescendo, feeling like a building about to tear itself apart. He perceives it! He feels the blow! Zaporoska yells, her voice strained against the agonizing sound. She glances frantically at Conan, then back at Khel. Her warning is barely out when a torrent of raw, dark energy erupts from Khel's form, smashing into the ground with explosive force, causing tremors that rock the entire chamber and send more shards of rock raining down from the invisible ceiling. It's less like a typical villainous grunt, and more like a continent-sized power grid overloading violently. Historians still debate the symbolic importance of totems and idols across ancient civilizations, often believed to contain fragments of divine power or influence, or to represent the very essence of the deity they depicted. Here, this Ymir idol clearly had a very literal connection to Khel's form and essence, functioning almost as a living battery or spiritual tether for his full awakening. Conan just disconnected the charging cable. With an axe, that's probably not in the warranty. Conan, ignoring the unleashed raw power and the sickening screams, swings his sword again, aiming for the newly created fissures, widening the cracks. Smash! Crack! Boom! Another earth-shaking impact, another wave of destructive resonance. This time, a monstrous, elongated crack splits the idol directly up its spine, separating its head from its shoulders, as if the very force of the blow were a surgical precision cut designed to bisect a mountain. The glowing energy lines flash once more, intensely, painfully bright, and then fade into cold, empty darkness like dying embers. With a final desperate heave, Conan pulls back his blade, then slams it into the fractured base of the idol one last time. The immense statue groans, a sound of splintering rock and rending magic, before it begins to visibly topple. Slowly at first, then with increasing speed, the titanic idol leans, totters, and with a cataclysmic roar of shattering stone and echoes that must reverberate for miles, it collapses onto the cavern floor, splintering into a million pieces. The sound is an explosion of static and pure dread. The very air around it dissipates into a cloud of chilling dust. Victory, or perhaps the opening gambit to utter annihilation, is at hand. The instant the idol crashes, the colossal figure of Khosatral-Khel roars. This is no mere shriek. It's a bellow of pure, unadulterated primal fury, echoing with eons of ancient malice and newly awakened hatred. The light in the chamber dims dramatically, plunged into a sickly, malevolent purple. The furious pulsations around his form grow wildly unstable, erupting with raw, untamed power that threatens to tear the very air apart. Oddly, an unrelated fact for you. Did you know that the doomsday clock, maintained by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, reflects hypothetical proximity to global catastrophe? If Khosrau-Kel's full awakening had a doomsday clock, it would probably just melt. The loss of the idol clearly unmoored something crucial within him. He ceases to be merely a coalescing horror. He becomes active, reacting not just to his immediate threat, but to the crushing blow against his mystical anchor. The rhythmic clanking of his regenerating form takes on a violent, chaotic beat, almost like an uncontrolled metronome. He was already a nightmare. Now, he's about to evolve into an absolute literal devil. You instinctively take a step back, realizing with chilling clarity that Conan has just thrown a stick into a hornet's nest made of iron and cosmic doom, and the hornets are not happy. Your next thought is probably, did I remember to unplug the coffee maker before I left for this historical deep dive? It's certainly a pertinent concern when the foundations of reality are about to shake itself to pieces. The cavern is in a state of apocalyptic uproar. The ear-splitting crescendo that accompanied the shattering of the Emir idol has only intensified, morphing into a chaotic symphony of pure, unadulterated terror. Khosrau-Kel, previously a half-formed abomination, is now experiencing a full, violent, and utterly horrifying metamorphosis forced by the destruction of his crucial focal point. The sheer rage emanating from him is a physical force pressing against your body like an unseen, violent hand. You watch, transfixed by a mix of fear and morbid fascination, as Khosrau-Kel fully sheds the guise of a merely regenerating horror. The slagged stone and amorphous shadows that composed his incomplete form earlier literally rip away from him, peeling back like molten layers, then dissipating into wisps of vile, smoky vapor that reek of brimstone and burnt metal. It's not a gradual, gentle reveal. It's a sudden, violent eruption, like a demonic butterfly struggling free from an utterly grotesque cocoon. But instead of iridescent wings, it reveals jagged iron. You find yourself squinting, your eyes aching from the raw, blinding light that emanates from him. A raw, furious brilliance that seems to burn all shadows away. This would definitely fail any kind of building code inspection for brightness levels. Standing where Kel once was, a half-formed mess, now truly revealed, is the full, terrible form of the devil in iron. And it is worse, infinitely worse, than any nightmare could conjure. This is no mere demon summoned from a misty, dark dimension. This is a living, breathing, unholy engine of pure malice. His immense body is constructed entirely of raw, jagged iron, dark, cold, and gleaming with a malevolent sheen in the pulsating light of the chamber. Spikes and razor-sharp blades protrude from his joints and shoulders, glistening ominously. His limbs are colossal, segmented, and utterly powerful, ending in claws that look like they could cleave bedrock with contemptuous ease. This thing didn't just come out of a forge. It is the forge, with a terrifying consciousness controlling every horrifying clang and shudder. The roar he lets loose now is not just fury, but a declaration. It's a metallic, booming sound, amplified by the cavern's acoustics, the very essence of cosmic, primal hatred made audible. It feels less like a sound emitted by a living being, and more like two tectonic plates grinding against each other in anguish, vibrating your teeth to their roots. This thing isn't just large, it's monstrously proportioned, a walking, clanking tower of pure, condensed malevolence, reaching up towards the cavern ceiling with oppressive, crushing weight. He appears impossibly tall, dwarfing even Conan's impressive height. You instantly regret all those tiny human inconveniences you ever complained about, realizing true misery has now gained physical manifestation right before your very eyes. His face, if you can call it a face, is a terrifying visceration of what might have once been humanoid features. It's a helmet-like skull, fashioned from what appears to be riveted iron. But not just armor, it is part of him. Sunken abyssal eyes glow with malevolent inner fire, pulsing with the same lurid red light that you saw on his reforming body, seeming to consume all light. From where you stand, his mouth seems to be a fixed grimace-like maw, revealing rows of sharp iron teeth, utterly incapable of anything resembling a pleasant conversation, or, say, politely asking for the nearest restroom. He probably wouldn't fit anyway. This is the very literal, absolute pinnacle of fear you've experienced in Ganata. He's an iron juggernaut, a walking fortress of destruction, an embodiment of the desolate land itself, forged anew from primordial evil. You can feel the intense cold radiating off him now, a concentrated wave of energy that sucks the very warmth out of the air, creating a tangible cold zone around his massive frame. This cold is ancient, chilling not just flesh, but also soul, as if he literally extracts heat and life as his presence demands it. It's less like a typical winter draft, and more like an active psychic vacuum for your happy thoughts. Conan, even facing such an absolute embodiment of cosmic evil, only sets his jaw harder. The primal fury in his eyes intensifies, morphing into a cold, determined resolve. He's seen things, he's punched things, and this new thing is absolutely on his punch list. But even he must recognize the overwhelming nature of this enemy. It's not just big and scary, it's eldritch. Zaporoska stands rigidly beside you, her eyes wide with a terrible realization. "He is free," she whispers, her voice filled with despair. "He has truly broken the binds. The idol was merely delaying the inevitable. His power is unleashed." Her prophecy and efforts were to contain, not necessarily to vanquish. Now, it is no longer about stopping a ritual, it's about outright combat against a full-fledged demonic entity. Historians and mythologists often discuss the evolution of demonic figures across cultures, from elemental spirits to anthropomorphic representations of evil, sometimes reflecting societal anxieties or moral lessons. Khosatral-Khel, however, is a fascinating reversal. He started as an elemental, primordial evil, then took on a more symbolic and mythological Iron Devil name. But now, in his fully awakened form, he combines both concepts into one horrific reality, an elemental force given an absolutely terrifying physical manifestation. There's no moral lesson here, just immense, unadulterated dread. The sheer mass of the Iron Devil now visible would weigh what feels like a small mountain. How could anything built of flesh and bone even hope to contend with something of such geological composition and malevolent energy? Oddly enough, for a random fact, did you know that the Earth's inner core is primarily solid iron, under immense pressure, despite temperatures that match the surface of the sun? It gives you a bizarre, passing thought that Khel isn't merely made of iron, but somehow draws his composition from such impossible extreme sources. Probably why he's so cold. Also probably why he hasn't signed up for any local fitness challenges. Too much heavy lifting. Khel, with a sound like 100 anvils striking simultaneously, takes his first full, unhurried steps. Each movement is slow, ponderous, but deliberate, shaking the very cavern, reverberating through your bones. His every shift causes metallic groans to echo around the chamber, sounding like a tortured ghost caught in a giant, rusty washing machine. His massive head swivels, the glow from his eyes sweeping across the cavern. He sees Conan. There's a momentary chilling stillness, as if Khel, a being who remembers eons of non-existence and unfathomable power, recognizes a challenge to his newfound, terrifying freedom. There's no surprise in his burning gaze, just ancient, boundless contempt. You can practically hear his internal monologue. "Oh, you, the annoying fly, now it begins, little mortal." The anticipation of the inevitable conflict hangs heavy in the air, thick and metallic, promising the kind of battle that doesn't just end, but fundamentally changes the landscape itself. Your blood feels like it's frozen solid, waiting for the first earth-shattering blow. This isn't just a boss fight. It's the beginning of an epic struggle, the ultimate test of man against an awakened god thing. The air in the immense cavern hums, less with an internal energy now, and more with the sheer unbearable tension of what is about to unfold. Khosatral stands revealed in his terrifying ironclad form, a mountainous titan of jagged metal and malevolent purpose. His colossal frame dominates the entire space, casting an oppressive, living shadow that swallows what little light the pulsing fissures provide. His every slow, ponderous movement makes the entire fortress groan and tremble, a dark prelude to the unimaginable impact that is coming. His glowing red eyes are fixed on Conan, a gaze that radiates millennia of accumulated hatred and contempt for all living things. Conan, however, doesn't flinch. In fact, if anything, a dangerous light glints in his Cimmerian eyes, not of fear, but of an utterly cold, primal fury. He meets the gaze of the devil in iron with an unflinching defiance, the muscle knotting in his jaw betraying his inner steel. You, on the other hand, are pretty sure you've lost a year off your life simply from existing in the same breathing space as this monstrosity. Your knees feel suspiciously wobbly, your stomach is attempting to tie itself in knots, and you suddenly understand why they say fight or flight. Your current response is more like freeze, then maybe cry quietly. The first blow is Kale's, a horrifying display of his overwhelming power. With a motion surprisingly swift for his gargantuan size, he raises one of his immense, clawed iron hands, a hand that could crush a dozen men like grapes, and brings it sweeping down in a motion designed to pulp the barbarian. The very air shrieks under the force of the strike, and a gust of chilling gale-force wind erupts outwards from the blow, blasting through the chamber, rattling everything. The metallic clang of iron on stone is deafening as Kel's claw smashes into the very ground where Conan stood moments before, carving a monstrous fissure into the living basalt, sending up sprays of jagged stone shards. Conan, quick as a viper, ducks and rolls with uncanny agility, narrowly evading the devastating strike. He moves not like a human, but like a predator, instinctual and precise, his entire being coiled for the counter. And indeed, he lunges instantly. His strategy, typically direct and brutal, is to exploit the enemy's size. Instead of engaging the Iron Fist head-on, he moves inside its guard, aiming for vital points or vulnerable areas on the monstrosity, despite their iron shielding. It's like watching a hummingbird try to dismantle a tank with a toothpick, if the hummingbird was exceptionally strong and incredibly angry. His first blow slams home with shocking force, his broadsword biting deep into a seam between the colossal iron plates of Kel's leg. Crunch! Clang! A shower of sparks erupts as steel meets this ancient, unnatural iron. But Kel's metal is unbelievably dense, unnaturally resilient. The sword merely scrapes, not pierces deeply, but it leaves a gouge, a visible scratch. Kel roars in response, a booming sound that vibrates the entire cavern, his abyssal eyes narrowing on the minuscule annoyance that dared to scar him. For Conan, a scratch is an opening. For Kel, it's probably the most annoying thing to happen since he got locked away a few millennia ago. The battle becomes a nightmarish dance of cataclysmic blows and agile-Bayan evasion. Kel attacks with raw, crushing power, swinging his titanic iron limbs, stomping, lunging with overwhelming force. Each strike generates miniature earthquakes, tremors that constantly rock the cavern. Conan, seemingly defying physics, twists and turns, sidestepping blows that would turn him into paste, parrying monstrous sweeps with his sword. The blade sings with fierce defiance as it meets Kel's iron body, though the clashes are less steel against steel and more pebble against mountain. You see Conan grimace with effort, his muscles coiling and flexing, knowing that a single mistake will be his last. Your muscles, on the other hand, are doing their best impersonation of cooked spaghetti, utterly useless. Zaporoska, standing behind Conan, acts as his watchful sentinel, weaving subtle bursts of protective energy around him, causing Kel's strikes to be fractionally deflected or causing his movements to become sluggish for a mere microsecond, allowing Conan to escape seemingly inescapable situations. Her contribution is subtle, almost unseen, yet vital. She's not a warrior, but a strategic asset, her ancient magic nudging the cosmic scales in their favor. It's a bit like having a teammate with unlimited healing potions in a video game, only without the handy on-screen display. The entire cavern is a whirlwind of destruction. Rock shatters, dust clouds erupt, and the pulsing unnatural light of the chamber flickers with each impact. You catch glimpses of the living walls themselves shivering and groaning under the strain, the bedrock quivering, suggesting that this monstrous battle is slowly but surely taking a toll on the very fortress itself. Remember that this place is Kel's vessel. Any damage to the environment is potentially damage to him, too. This is not just a duel, it's a living demolition project. Historians still debate the role of individual heroes in ancient epic poems. Were their legendary feats literally performed or exaggerated to serve cultural narratives about courage and perseverance against overwhelming odds? Watching Conan, you'd lean towards literal. His sheer audacity in engaging such a monstrosity is truly legendary. The ancient Hyborian scribes would probably just run away screaming and write a terse, fear-filled haiku about the terrifying Metal Man. One powerful swipe from Kel's claw actually connects with Conan's shoulder, sending him skidding across the obsidian floor, his form leaving a glowing trail. You gasp, expecting the worst, but the Cimmerian warrior is impossibly resilient. He pushes himself up, teeth bared in a furious snarl, his body absorbing the impact, a small trickle of blood blooming on his fur-clad arm. His blows are small in comparison, yet persistent, chipping away at Kel's immense form. He seems to be aiming for the points where the molten metal on Kel's body cools and solidifies those still incomplete, still vulnerable patches from his hastened awakening. He's seeking structural weak points, almost as if Kel is less a demon and more an ancient, highly dangerous, unrefined construct. Oddly enough, in thinking of ancient technology, did you know that the ancient Egyptians were master stonemasons and used techniques like drilling with copper and abrasive sand, and also shaping granite with dolerite pounders to cut and shape impossibly hard stones? It's truly amazing, yet their methods pale in comparison to whatever dark forces Kel is utilizing to form his body. Probably more than just copper and sand were involved. Likely also a good dose of cosmic horror. The relentless battle pushes you deeper into the horrifying realization of just how alien Khosatral Kel is. He fights not with strategy, but with boundless, terrifying strength and pure, unadulterated, unthinking malice. He is a force of nature, a blizzard of iron and rage, yet Conan, a man of raw cunning and brutal efficiency, holds his ground. Every clanging strike, every guttural roar from Kel, every defiant grunt from Conan echoes through the heart of the living island. This isn't merely a fight for survival, it's a battle to prevent a truly dark epic from beginning. You pray to whatever ancient deities are listening that Conan's resilience is enough to outlast this ultimate nightmare, for if he falls, there will be no escaping the terrible fate that Khosatral Kel promises to unleash upon the unsuspecting world. You can almost feel the vibrations of Kel's footsteps ripple through the ground outside, impacting the cold, dead landscape of Ganata. This isn't just about the cavern anymore, it's about the very earth itself. The cavern is no longer a contained battleground, it's a living, screaming entity tearing itself apart. The catastrophic impacts of Khosatral Kel's immense blows, coupled with Conan's relentless counterstrikes, small but insistent, like 1,000 buzzing bees repeatedly stinging a rampaging bull, are pushing the sentient fortress beyond its structural limits. Each clang of Conan's sword against Kel's iron form, each stomp of the Iron Devil's immense foot, sends tremors that radiate outwards, not just shaking the cavern floor, but literally shaking the entire island that comprises the fortress. You feel it in your very core, a profound, gut-wrenching vibration that promises total annihilation. This is what it sounds like when ancient architecture has a complete breakdown. Jagged fissures, mere cracks when the idol shattered, are now widening into gaping maws that cleave the massive walls of the chamber. Dust and rock cascade from the ceiling in steady, thunderous avalanches. The strange internal light from the fissures, remember those creepy pulsing glows? Flickers erratically, sometimes flaring to blinding intensity, then plunging sections of the chamber into terrifying darkness, only to return with a sickly, malevolent, purple or blood-red hue. It's like a haunted discotheque having a very severe power outage. Your vision struggles to adapt, your senses overwhelmed by the sheer, chaotic violence unfolding. Zaporoska, standing with you, points to one of the newly rent chasms in the wall. Through it, you catch a glimpse of raw, unworked earth and ice, previously hidden beneath the structured facade of the fortress. It's no longer a monolithic, sealed entity. It's splitting open, revealing the core of its being. "He draws life from the living rock!" Zaporoska shouts over the din, her voice hoarse, pointing to Khosatral Kel, who momentarily pauses his attack on Conan. But the rock is now fighting him. His own essence rebels. This is the turning point. Kel isn't just taking damage from Conan. He's being undone by the very vessel that brought him to full form. The centuries of magic and sorcery that formed the fortress into his prison, and later his regeneration vessel, are now unraveling, twisting, turning upon him. This massive magical geological body is collapsing under the sheer stress of harboring such unbound, destructive power. It's like finding out your smartphone battery has a self-destruct mechanism that activates when the Wi-Fi is too slow. Turns out, trying to charge up cosmic evil inside a sensitive living mountain made of hate is bad for structural integrity. Khosatral Kel roars, not in battle fury now, but in raw, frustrated agony. You can hear a deep, sickening grinding sound emanating from within his own iron form, distinct from the sounds of his movements or his attacks. His internal mechanisms, whatever arcane forces animate his iron flesh, are clearly malfunctioning. Streaks of corrosive energy, like molten, toxic veins, suddenly appear across his polished iron body, causing sections to blacken and crack with his every movement. He seems to be bleeding energy, the colossal battle tearing him apart from the inside, fueled by the rebellious force of the now collapsing island. It's a spectacular show of destructive synergy, man versus monster, aided by the monster's very prison turning into an unwilling weapon against itself. Conan seizes this critical shift in Kel's vulnerability. He fights with renewed, almost superhuman strength, no longer just deflecting and evading, but delivering calculated, savage blows. His blade finds every weakening point, every fracturing joint on the monstrous Iron Devil, not only scarring his exterior, but striking at the internal magical core. Each successful hit against Kel correlates directly with a new, larger crack erupting in the cavern walls, a louder groan from the tormented stone, a heavier shower of debris from the ceiling. It's like watching a real-time health bar diminish, but instead of glowing numbers, it's chunks of ceiling falling onto your head. Great. Historians still debate whether legendary battles of myth could truly devastate landscapes, or if these were hyperbolic narratives symbolizing spiritual struggles. Here, you're literally watching a battle physically demolish the landscape it's being fought on, causing geographical restructuring with each impactful blow. No metaphors needed here, just a good old-fashioned brawl ripping reality a new one. The ground beneath your feet becomes less stable. The persistent thrumming accelerates, turning into a frantic, shuddering roar. Then, with a prolonged, sickening scream of wrenching metal and groaning rock, the very floor beneath you begins to slope downwards. The circular chamber itself, the epicenter of the battle, is beginning to tilt, a visible, horrifying distortion. Walls shift inward, huge segments of the cavern ceiling splinter off, revealing the raw sky, not of Ganata, but something else entirely. A whirling vortex of dark clouds and blinding alien lightning that occasionally pulses with the same malevolent red light from Kel's eyes. It seems the fortress was not just moving. It was flying, or hovering. Either way, it's about to come crashing down. That's probably not great for anyone's insurance premiums. Zaporoska grabs your arm, her grip surprisingly strong, her eyes wide. The island itself is falling. He drew too much power. He overstrained its very fabric, she screams over the terrible cacophony. We must find a way out. Her wisdom has saved you before, but now it feels like a death sentence. Even if Kel is defeated, escape from a plummeting continent-sized fortress seems, well, logistically challenging. Oddly enough, and probably a sign that you're under too much stress, a bizarre, irrelevant fact about historical engineering popped into your head. Did you know that the Lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, stood for over 1,000 years before being damaged by earthquakes? This fortress lasted millennia too, but was ultimately destroyed by one really mad Cimmerian and his nemesis. Not quite an earthquake, but the effect is arguably more dramatic. Conan is almost lost now in the blinding chaos, a determined silhouette against the violent light. Kel's monstrous roars echo the collapsing structure, his immense iron form struggling, his every movement sending out sprays of fracturing metal and bursts of dark energy that feel like psychic backlash. The battle is a whirlwind, punctuated by cataclysmic sound and violent movement. The very air is filled with pulverized rock, obscuring vision, and the reek of burning minerals. This truly is the monstrous fate of the floating island, not just defeat, but utter dismemberment, a self-inflicted annihilation. It's the final stage of Kel's long reign of terror over Ganata, not with a bang, but with a series of incredibly loud bangs and then an eventual collapse. The floor beneath you is no longer a stable surface, it's a ramp of grinding stone, shards of frozen earth and pulverized basalt, tilting at an increasingly alarming angle. Sounds of crushing rock, snapping metallic groans, and agonizing shrieks, some from the fortress itself, some from Kel, fill the air. The floating island, it is now irrevocably committed to its fall, its purpose fulfilled in becoming Kel's ultimate prison, its role over. It embraces destruction rather than continuing to harbor its insidious passenger. You see Kel's titanic form outlined in the chaos, battling Conan amidst the collapse, a final, desperate clash in a dying world. Literally. The ceiling crumbles, entire sections of the fortress peel away like dried skin, exposing the swirling, nightmarish maelstrom of light and darkness outside. Your one thought, as you try to stay upright amidst the shuddering collapse, is that a quiet cup of tea back home sounds truly revolutionary right about now, or at least a slightly less catastrophic exit. Just about any exit, really. The cacophony is beyond anything you've ever heard. It's no longer just a battle. It's an active demolition site operated by forces beyond mortal comprehension. A maelstrom of screaming rock, groaning metal, and unleashed primal magic. The entire circular chamber, which seconds ago was a solid foundation, is now tilting precariously, its immense stone structure fragmenting and rupturing with horrifying finality. Dust, ice, and massive shards of black basalt rain down from the invisible ceiling, illuminated erratically by blinding, destructive flashes from the outer chaos, where the living island is now plunging, not falling, but disintegrating into the desolate wastes below. Conan, locked in his desperate final struggle with the flailing, fragmenting form of Khosatral-Kel, is a blurred silhouette against the blinding chaos. Kel, his iron form cracking and corroding under the dual assault of Cimmerian blade and his own disintegrating prison, lets out an echoing shriek that sounds less like a creature and more like the wail of a tormented star. This isn't the proud defiance of a battle-hardened villain. It's the raw anguish of a primal entity being torn asunder, consumed by the very power he sought to harness. It's almost satisfying in a horrifying way, like watching a really obnoxious neighbor finally getting his just desserts after years of incredibly loud parties, but scaled up to planetary destruction. Zaporoska, with a grim determination, has managed to cling to a surprisingly stable, albeit steeply sloping, outcrop of rock near what used to be a wall. She reaches out to you, her hand strong and steady amidst the tremors that are shaking the very air. "Quickly!" she shouts over the din, her voice a strained whisper that somehow carries through the noise. "There, an ancient path. The collapse has revealed it." You look where she points. Indeed, where a moment ago was solid rock, now there's a spiraling chasm, an impossibly narrow passage ripped open in the rock, twisting down into the heart of the falling landmass. It seems the universe finally decided to throw you a bone, a very, very small, jagged bone. Conan, seizing a crucial opening, unleashes one final, ferocious, double-handed swing of his mighty broadsword. It finds the nexus of fracturing metal and raw energy within Kel's body, right at the monstrosity's chest. The clang this time is less a collision and more an implosion of pure, dark force. The blow sends ripples of raw, malevolent power shuddering through Kel, and for a terrifying second you see the pulsing red glow within him falter, then extinguish entirely. The devil in iron, the very embodiment of millennia of malice, lets out a final, shuddering thump, like a building settling. Its gigantic form becomes momentarily still, almost lifeless. But there's no time to check for a pulse. This isn't CPR territory. It's more like run for your life before the building collapses. As Kel ceases his struggle, his immense, dead weight somehow causes the ground beneath him to buckle and groan in protest. The entire floor of the cavern seems to drop away completely, swallowing Kel's immense, silent form whole into the churning abyss below. He doesn't simply fall. He seems to dissolve, consumed by the destructive force that also claims the inner chamber. The place that was his final triumph becomes his eternal tomb, an abyss of unimaginable horror. The screams of the falling debris and the sounds of crushing stone become deafening. It's like the universe is shouting its triumphant, vengeful joy. "Conan, now!" Zaporoska yells, her voice raw, pulling at your arm with surprising strength. Conan, having completed his task, turns with impossible speed, his eyes catching the light of the spiraling escape route. Without a word, he leaps over a collapsing crevice, landing lightly despite his powerful armor and the shifting ground. He is instantly at the mouth of the newly revealed passage, beckoning you both onward. He doesn't look back at the abyss, clearly uninterested in verifying his villain's defeat. When Conan's done, he's done. You, half pulled, half scrambling, manage to follow Zaporoska and Conan into the winding dark passage. The chaos outside is a symphony of pure annihilation, fading only slightly as you descend deeper into the living rock, which is still groaning around you, resisting the destructive forces it once amplified. This passage seems less like a meticulously carved tunnel, and more like a tear in the fabric of Ganata, revealed only at the critical moment. You occasionally scrape against smooth, dark surfaces, but the dominant sensation is one of being compressed, squeezed by the dying behemoth around you. This is why you need proper travel insurance. It probably doesn't cover interdimensional evil collapsing. Historians still debate the common folklore motif of hidden passages or secret exits in ancient strongholds and tombs. Were they a practical aspect of architecture, or simply literary devices to add suspense and an element of fate to historical narratives? In this case, this ancient tear in the fortress is absolutely real, a life-saving miracle. Also, an odd, completely irrelevant fact. Did you know that ants can carry objects up to 50 times their own body weight? Given what you just experienced, if Kel was an ant, he'd be able to destroy an entire continent simply by doing his morning exercises. As you plunge deeper, the furious noise of the disintegrating fortress becomes more muffled, replaced by the grating of stone against stone, and the whistling rush of air as the land mass plummets through unseen voids. The temperature changes drastically, shifting from icy to surprisingly hot, then back to biting cold, indicating you're traversing incredibly complex, possibly supernaturally warped subterranean tunnels. You're beginning to wonder if there's a portal at the bottom, or just a very, very flat landing that involves the word splat. The descent feels eternal, an accelerating spiral through endless darkness. Finally, abruptly, light, crisp air and relative silence wash over you. You are no longer in the grinding depths of the living fortress, but emerging onto a rocky ledge high above the desolate landscape of Ganata. Below, spread out before you, is a vast, new, impossibly deep chasm, hundreds of feet wide and thousands of feet deep, a monstrous scar gouged into the very face of the world. It smokes with unholy steam and echoes with faint, dying rumbles. This chasm is where the fortress, Kosatralkel's iron dominion, has just plummeted, tearing itself apart as it hit the depths of Kanata's bedrock, leaving only a new, terrifyingly vast wound on the face of the planet. The cold is still here, sharper and cleaner now, without the heavy pall of evil. Ganata, though forever scarred, seems to breathe a sigh of immense relief, almost as if the land itself is finally free from the parasitic entity that had claimed it for so long. There's an uncanny silence in the aftermath, broken only by the howl of the wind and the occasional distant rumble from the chasm, the last death throes of a defeated devil. Conan stands at the edge, silhouetted against the bleak, icy sky. He offers no commentary, no triumphant cries, merely surveying the new, desolate landscape. His mission is accomplished. He leaves the horror behind, burying it deep, far below the earth. Zaporoska joins him, a strange look of exhaustion and profound relief on her face, tinged with a haunting knowledge of the terrible eons past and present. They both watch the last wisps of corrupted steam rise from the new chasm, fading into the pervasive Hyperborean mist, knowing that a darkness has been averted, though the scars remain. And as you stand with them, looking down at the desolate wound in the earth, the magnitude of what you just experienced begins to truly sink in. It's over. The devil in iron has fallen. The ancient horrors are quieted once more. You blink, slowly, absorbing the cold, vast quiet. Your breath comes in ragged gulps, and the phantom sensation of rock and iron vibrations still hums in your teeth, a persistent, chilling reminder of the nightmare. As the sun begins to show a pale, indifferent sliver on the distant horizon, casting long, frigid shadows across the barren wastes, you feel a deep, pervasive weariness settling into your bones, more profound than any physical exertion. It's the kind of exhaustion that comes from brushing against cosmic horror, from seeing the abyss and pulling back. The cold, however, finally feels just like Kid, or without the malevolent undertones. Conan, having dispatched a demon god, will undoubtedly be off to his next impossible adventure soon. But for you, the silence now is a merciful balm, the stark reality of the desolate land almost a welcome respite from the chaos. It's time to put away the nightmares and gently embrace the silence. And now, as you settle deeper into your covers, let the chill of Ganata slowly recede from your mind's eye. The harsh landscape blurs, the clang of ancient iron fades into the distance, leaving only the soft hum of quiet, safe night. That epic tale of Conan, the intrepid hero, facing down a cosmic horror from forgotten eons, serves its purpose tonight. The cold of the Hyperborean north is a distant memory, replaced by the gentle warmth of your own sanctuary. The fear, too, dissolves like mist under a silent dawn, leaving only the tranquil echo of a story well told. Close your eyes. Drift softly. The world is safe. The devils are banished, at least for tonight. All is quiet, All is peaceful. Just drift.